How is it that you transfer that idea, that vision you have inside your mind into your reader's mind? Another video in my You Want series. You want your environments to draw your readers into your story. You have these wonderful pictures inside your mind of the sorts of places in your story, of the sorts of characters that walk through those places. But you want your reader to wish that he or she was there in those places. Also, how is it that you draw your reader into those places? You want your environment to be gripping, but how is it that your environment can be gripping, inspirational, and imaginative to your readers? How do you paint the image you have in your head into your reader's mind? How is it that you transfer that idea, that vision you have inside your mind into your reader's mind? I want to give you 4 key takeaways. And the first of those 4 key takeaways is that of light. The first way, in order to draw your reader into the environments of your story, is to paint the light and describe the light of that scene in very accurate terms. Is it a scene that takes place during the day, or is it a scene that takes place during the night? What sort of light is moving through that scene? Is the sunlight shafting down because there's a lot of atmospheric involvement in the air, or is it merely glowing sunlight from the sky down to the ground and making maybe the gardens light up with vibrance so that you can actually see the sort of luminance in the leaves of the plant life that your characters are interacting with? That leads me to point number 2, and that is of nature. The fact that you need to write and accurately describe nature in your story on some key level in order for your readers to be able to relate and understand and be able to imagine that place, to be able to understand it, to be able to feel the textures of that place. Even inside places where there isn't much nature, then you can describe the absence of it, but then how a little bit of nature is creeping up in various maybe cracks of the pavement or sidewalk if it's a scene that takes place in a city. And then when it's in the country or in other places or locations, you can easily describe the nature around the characters. You also then need to put sounds inside of your environments. You need to describe what the characters are actually hearing, what they're listening to, what sort of insects are chirping around them, or maybe birds are singing, or maybe voices speaking, maybe distant traffic if it takes place in modern times. Even in ancient times, the sorts of animals, horses or other that the characters are listening to. You need to be able to describe the sounds of the environment. Is the wind howling, or is a soft breeze just whispering, or is there a storm that's brewing? You need to be able to describe the sounds of your environment. And fourth, last but not least, you need to involve your characters with the environment that you have just described, so that they're actually interacting with that environment. They're not just moving through that environment as though they really didn't care about the environment, but they're actually doing things that interact with that environment. If they're walking through gardens, then maybe you can describe them tending that garden, or a gardener tending that garden, or maybe they're smelling the plants or feeling the plants or flowers. If it's a place indoors, then you need to be able to describe different props that they're using inside of that environment. Whatever the case, you need to be able to have your characters interact with that environment, and that is how you draw your reader into your story to get them to understand the environment that you are writing about, and to be able to actually get them to want to visit that environment for themselves.